Hello.
Ah, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Labs Talk. The first one in
Welcome. The
2025, right?
first episode in
Can
2025,
hear
and
you,
with
Andreas?
that, you can't hear me? No? I can hear you? It worked a minute ago. Hello? Test, 1, 2.
Thanks.
Oh, come on.
Um,
Test.
it's
It's
on my
supposed to
side, I
work.
think. Now I hear
Uh,
you, Andreas. Now it does
okay.
work. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good start, right?
It's a good start into the new year, absolutely.
That's a very good
Uh,
start. Yeah. So
let me still give you a shout out to Finland, to the north of Finland.
yes.
Hello, up
So
there.
let me explain. I'm a bit far away from where I'm normally, right, in Munich. I'm in the northern part of Finland, in Lapland, I believe, right? So it's close to the Ivalo airport. I'm in Kilopää. That's how it's called. And we have the Codefreeze conference here. So it's an IT tech conference that is really happening once a year for the whole week. And it's very special, actually. So it's a very special conference, and it's lovely to be here. It's used to be really cold out there with minus 70 degrees, but today we actually had 1 degree plus even. There was even some slight rain. And yeah, interesting to be here.
Awesome. So with that, on our pre-chat and preparation board, we figured there's another big tech conference going on.
Yeah.
Then, so far there is, or there has been, the CES 2025. And with you being so far away from everything, did you actually recognize anything?
I mean, that was already happening last week or the week before, right? But
Yeah.
the one thing that I can still remember actually was the Roomba. Or was it a Roomba? But it was a cleaning robot with a
Yeah,
robotic hand
I've seen that's capable to collect socks, right?
that's able to collect the socks now. Which, I mean, it's a problem. I mean, the other thing that I would like to see collected is actually USB cables that are on the ground, for example. They also
Yeah, it was
threw off my
from
road
the
with
announcement.
Roomba.
It was quite unclear whether it's really just socks or cables on
Yeah.
top. So we will see. That's maybe
What
we
do you
get back to
remember?
that next year. Oh, the one thing I found adorable was this tiny cat that's capable to cool your tea.
Yeah, I think it's called Fufu, right? The
Yeah,
Fufu
it's
cat, basically,
Nico
that's
Cheetah
cooling your teeth.
Fufu.
So it's
Yeah, I'm going to go for one of those. Probably my
yeah.
daughter is going
I
to
mean,
love it.
besides those two things that are quite funny, I guess there were quite some more important announcements around AI, of course, and crazy news. But let's not go too deep into that actually, because
It's
yeah,
something
I don't
that
know. We could
we
spend the whole
guess you
show
need
talking about
back
these.
to at the end of this episode. So if you're watching this,
Mhm.
we're running this survey in LinkedIn as well. As we're still trying to figure out which one is going to be bigger this year.
Yeah, you mean quantum computing or agentic AI? Yeah, and you should check
Basically, yes.
Andreas'
And
LinkedIn post for that. And so I maybe one thing to add here when it comes to quantum computing, I think there was the NVIDIA CEO, and he was telling us, and there was some news item about it's apparently 10, 15 years out for him. That's what he believes. And then I remember that Christian Klein just today or the last couple of days actually mentioned that he believes it's actually 3 to 4 years out. So we'll see. There's definitely quite some momentum now actually behind quantum computing, which is interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's on
I
our list.
share that perspective. That's my bubble really is going up on quantum computing. There's more and more coming in. We'll see. We'll close it. We'll watch it closely for you, and we'll definitely cover it one way or another this year. We're still in debate. Your input can influence that.
Totally. So should we move on to what we actually plan for Q1 and for Q2 maybe? And
Yeah,
also we did some research a bit, right? So we looked a little bit into like what do all the companies and the other big players think that 2025 will be made up of. And
let's first start with looking
yeah,
ahead. We called this episode "Looking Ahead," and we're in good shape in terms of program. I guess that's definitely something we can share today, and we should. That
go
we
for it.
do have very specific plans already. We are going to cover technology in sports for almost the first half year. We have a number of prestigious guests invited and on our calendar already. So everybody listening to our channel, stay tuned. There is quite a few things to learn about technology in sports. And to go through for that, we're going to start that out with an episode about sports sponsorship. That's going to happen 2 weeks from today. And we invited our esteemed colleague, Lars Lamade. He's a colleague here in SAP for us. He's running sports sponsorships, and he's going to talk to us in 2 weeks. We have Professor Sascha Schmidt. Sven, you want to talk about the academic perspective a bit?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, he's written an awesome book, which is all about the use of technology in sports and what it actually also how sports can be used in business. To be honest with you, actually also and with the help of technology to kind of drive business, I would say. So it's quite interesting. We are also most likely talking to Finn Weber from New Spice. They are basically more or less basically involved in the SAP garden here in Munich, to some degree involved basically, and we'll talk about how we can basically optimize with technology these big sports arenas, for example, when it comes to catering and to other processes in there. Do you want to take the name or two, maybe the ecosystems?
Yeah, totally. The contact we made and how we got in touch with Finn is through a partnership we have, and in particular, we spoke to Thomas Hüpper, and we're going to talk to Thomas Hüpper here on this show. And the topic for that will be the ecosystem that exists around the Technical University and Unternehmertum, and that exists in Munich and around Munich, around sports. And there is quite a few insights that we already found ourselves, and we found it so interesting that we want to share that with you. That's Thomas. That's scheduled for something end of February, and we stay in that startup space and ecosystem space with the meta game, and we're inviting Pia. And the startup she's part of is how do I describe that? They're touching esports for corporate activities, not to disclose too much for her, and that's something where we try to get over topic-wise from regular sports into esports, and we're going to have Sandra at the end of this series. And Sandra is the representative for the Bayerischer E-Sport-Verband and industry, or what's the English term? Industry
it's an organization
representation.
that's really meant to drive esports basically, right? And to lobby also for esports. Yeah.
To lobby for esports, which I found an amazing close for this series, because esports, it's for old white dudes as we are. It's something totally new, and we had a bunch of enlightening moments when we spoke to Sandra first, and we hope it's interesting insight for you as well. So those are our plans. That's going to happen, I think, end of April. So first 4 months are really packed with content and interesting insights.
Perfect. And I think before we talk a bit about Q2, where we have some plans already, but we also have a poll out there, right? Whether it's going to be quantum or agentic AI. Let's see. Let's first cover what's hot in 2025. Okay.
I think you did a lot of work in that space, Sven.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I think you went through plenty of predictions, market analysts, tech analysts,
And
what stuck
to be
out
honest
for
with you,
you?
that's the favorite thing I'd like to do between the Christmas time and New Year. There's always a couple of hours and that I really have to really deeply look into what do all the analysts expect that 2025 is about. And so I pulled all these different topics and compared them a little bit. And the number one topic for me actually is still, I believe, and that's what all the analysts believe, like Gartner, for example, is that agentic AI will be the big topic of 2025, right? So that kind of means, if you have not looked into agentic AI yet, it kind of means that we're basically now letting AI autonomously drive APIs, for example. So it means you have a kind of a personal assistant in a business context. It could be also our SAP Joule, for example, that's really autonomously taking on tasks basically and solving problems without, for example, or with little human interaction actually. So that's the next level of
Whereas
large language
from
models.
one of the previous episodes that we did with Saskia from our colleagues that cover governance and ethics, one important thing I remember that an ethical perspective is that decision making is a difficult thing for machines.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that's getting more importance? Like what you just explained to us sounds like giving off decision makings to machines. It's going to happen.
I think this will be super interesting to see, and I agree with you. I also recall that we discussed how important it is that the human stays in the loop, basically, and we are not making decisions automatically. But I think 1 year afterwards, it looks like everybody is already talking about letting things loose and doing things automatically. So we'll see how well that works and with what kind of governance and ethics we're going to see this happening, but I think it's going to happen somehow. And maybe associated to that topic is also the whole topic of cybersecurity and disinformation security, like AI being used to send fake emails and trick you into things that you don't want to click on, basically, and stuff like that, basically in the whole internet. It's going to be really interesting to see actually how we also detect fake news, for example, and that's those kind of things.
Yeah, I feel like in that entire space, security and privacy, disinformation, there's a lot that's going to happen. Also training data, where's training data originated from, private versus public data, all of that. That's going to gain in importance. Let's see.
And I think the next big block is new computing. So in the new computing space, there was a lot of discussion around quantum computing now. So the recent news end of 2024 was that, for example, Google released this new Willow chip, right? And so in general, the news was picking up when it came to quantum computing. And that's also now it really seems to pick up speed. And so over the actually before Christmas, I also did some LinkedIn learning courses that I can just recommend. One was a bit more high level, the other one was a bit lower level with really getting into Qiskit, which is the SDK for the IBM's quantum computing systems, for example. And I was running a workload on a quantum computer and was entangling qubits and talking and figuring out what superposition means and stuff like that. And actually, just here at the Codefreeze conference, we had a workshop about quantum computing. There was really high interest. So we're definitely like 15, 20 people sitting at the table, basically.
Sauna in that case. No.
And we created these block sphere balls, which is a way to represent the quantum state. So think of them as, I actually have some here, actually. Some beach balls, but of course blown up. And then you can put some stickers onto 3 axes to describe this quantum state. So we had quite some fun and hopefully now have a bit of an understanding of quantum computing, logic gates and Qiskits and whatever basically that's in that space. That's really important. And it seems to pick up speed and a lot of people are really interested. I'm personally far from doing anything practical with it. But
Well,
whenever it comes to
I
optimization, right,
guess
that's when quantum computing can actually play a big role in future.
I guess it's bet at this point, and we're going to get back to that. We mentioned it before. There's a poll out there. Leave us a comment and give us a vote.
Yeah.
We want to hear your perspective. But to stick with quantum computing, you wrote down hybrid computing, ambient invisible intelligence. It's both under that new computing tab. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
So I think hybrid computing kind of means that we're now combining the on-premise and cloud computing systems, and we're even including edge computing, and we basically instead of just shifting stuff to the cloud or shifting stuff on-premise like it was earlier, it's now becoming one big play, so to say, right? And whatever makes sense and whatever system is best is doing the workload. And it also means that we're basically getting more resilient computing infrastructure, I believe, right? So it means that we can shift computing from one side to the other, for example. And I guess ambient invisible intelligence, what's meant here is that all these IoT sensors are really basically becoming next level. Yeah? But to be honest with you, those two things like hybrid computing, ambient invisible intelligence, they were not really, for me, it doesn't look like those are big topics, to be honest with you,
Okay.
right? So I found then, for example, if you move over to the human and machine synergy area, there's, for example, the topic of spatial computing, which I still find more interesting than some of the other topics. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. And we covered that in somewhat great depth the other year, and eventually we're going to get back to that. So for spatial computing, I made two observations in the past couple of weeks during the Christmas days. So the first observation I made, I saw a few side notes, tech magazines, even the Süddeutsche that I subscribe to. There is a side note that production for Apple Vision Pro got stopped and delayed, and sales numbers didn't meet expectations and all that. And at the same time, in my family, somebody got a Meta Quest as a gift, as a Christmas gift. So there seem to be different approaches that work differently well in that space, whereas that term spatial computing is made up by a particular company. The technology as such, I feel, picks up. Maybe that's something we want to talk about, how that entire space develops, what the use cases are.
Yeah, for sure. So if someone finds that interesting, please leave us a comment, for example. Yeah.
As always, right?
So another thing that I found really interesting, it goes a bit back to our robotics series, right? Polyfunctional robots. So that really means that a robot is able to be reprogrammed and do a different task. And that's really interesting because so far I think robots were used in a kind of an automation fashion, right? And they were actually doing one very specific thing. And what's really new now is that these robots become more human-like, so to say, right? And they actually really are able to be reprogrammed to do the next task, for example. They're just specifically made for one specific task. So that's a big new thing. And robotics there have been a lot of advancements in robotics. Yeah. So it's really a question of time also until the robotics is just able to take over more tasks. Yeah.
Whereas polyfunctional to me just sounds like a very fancy term for something very natural. Like single-use type of technology is like very limited in use, whereas the general application is always the one to go for. So polyfunctional feels very natural development, evolution.
I also think it's like the combination of robotics with AI now is finally at the point where we maybe really have these polyfunctional robots. Yeah, it was definitely a goal to go into this polyfunctional area and have like multi-use robots, I would say, but the tech wasn't just there, right? But while now actually it seems like we're we're making advancements in AI, and so we can have these polyfunctional robots too, I guess. Yeah.
Neurological enhancements, what does that mean?
Well, that's basically all the brain implants you can think of, basically, right? And controlling drones with your thinking, for example. Yeah, I mean that's
very neuromancer cyberpunk type of
exactly,
technology.
yeah, neurologic and so on, basically. But I mean it's ongoing, right? I mean that's the question if we will see a lot of news. But it was mentioned a couple of times.
Neuralink company announced they did a prototype or two the other year. They just announced this week they're planning to do something between 20 and 30 this year.
Yeah. And you know what I actually found also quite interesting in this area, and I remember that I wrote this down on my personal mind map actually. So far we talked about curing diseases, right? So if, for example, if you have some muscle sensory issues, you might be able to move your hands and so on, basically with the help of these implants. But I found neurological enhancement being mentioned when it comes to improving your everyday tasks, basically, right? And your performance, more or less. So, and I think there was some news mentioning that in 2030, some percentage that I think was something 10 or 20% of the population would actually have neurological enhancements to improve performance. So
Which would be
that was
mainly
interesting. I don't think we're directly talking implants into your brain from that perspective on, right? So it could just be another implant that's maybe measuring something in your body or something like that. But
like to replace the gadget with something implanted. Oh my God!
It just seems like the technology is no longer off limits of our bodies to what I would say right now. So it's coming closer, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
like that
at that point, the one thing you're touching is maybe even medical applications like diabetes type of sensors, glucose, sugar type of sensors that have medical application that may require this type of invasive deployment.
Yeah.
But let's stick to the gadget type of application, maybe. That's
because that
more
reminds me a
part.
bit of the Verve, right? It's a big online publication, and I was checking them a bit on the gadget side. And you just mentioned these personal health monitors and stuff like that. So that's one part of it. But then the other thing, and that's pretty much the only thing I really want to mention, besides, I mean, personal assistant smartphones and things like Gemini on Android smartphones becoming more powerful and stuff like that. There's a new standard when it comes to door locks, actually. So it sounds super boring. But if you imagine that we all use multiple locks every single day, right? It could be a big thing that's really right in our face in future. So there's a new standard called Aliro, and apparently Google, Samsung, and also Apple have basically agreed on using this standard.
Yeah, I think we spoke about that offline before. Like I've been a member for IEEE, disclaimer at that point. So like my perspective to standardization is twofold. One, I agree it's super boring. And standardization is something nobody really talks about. But then again, it's been the driver for innovation so many times. At that point, I wouldn't want to mention the name of that organization a lot, cause whether it becomes a standard that will only show later. There is so many organizations that try to become a standard after all. Nevertheless, the standardization as such and the process, it's boring, but it's necessary because only if standards are established, the market can provide interoperable devices, and it would solve a real problem based on that standard. Like in this case, door locks. So if that happens, that really would make door locks, that would probably give door locks a bit of market acceptance, so to say. I can totally imagine.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, it's just getting into the market now, I believe. So it will not revolutionize our planet and our world, basically. But it's maybe something that is very visible also because we use a lot of logs every single day, right? So, but it's not a major topic, I guess, yeah, right now.
We will see.
Well, the one thing that I was a bit really feeling sad about is that I almost didn't catch any news and any trends importance when it comes to sustainability, to be honest with you. So there was some analysts mentioning green computing, for example, and I also remember that some, especially for example when it comes to algorithms and coding, not only speed but also resource consumption becomes a topic. So you can actually design an algorithm in a way, of course, that it uses less energy, for example. So that's an interesting thing maybe that's happening here. And then I think the awareness of ESG and compliance, basically, and reporting CO2 emissions becomes a bit more important, of course. But it was basically mentioned on a side note in many of these publications, and that is a bit sad, to be honest with you, because I also felt like we have very, very pressing, very big problems to solve, and now we're not really solving them.
Like I share that feeling. It's even doesn't feel like zeitgeist a lot to me. There's a big turn back on a larger scale, and at the same time, from my perspective, it's so pressing and so necessary. And I'm pretty sure, at least you and me on this show, we will talk about ESG reporting and the necessity for greener supply chains and all that some point throughout the year. Just to mention that we are holding up the flag, but I have the same perception. Yeah. It's not one of the popular topics, definitely, even though it's so important.
Perfect. So should we then move a little bit on what are our plans for the Q2 now? Because we talked about Q1, it's going to be filled with sports, lots of sports, right, and technology, of course, and the impact on business.
Let's touch it briefly, maybe what can happen. I think we decided on content more than we decided on the order of things. So I guess we prepared some thoughts around quantum computing, that we do a regular series on quantum computing. Sven, I'll let you talk about that in a few seconds. That we do start out with a startup that we do bring in an academic perspective, that we bring in our colleagues' perspective, that we do have a couple of different perspectives around. That's our current plan for the time being. With that, I want to once again ask our audience to leave us a comment whether agentic AI would be a more interesting topic. So we are undecided on the order of things, but to round off this show today, Sven, let's talk a bit about quantum computing and what we can cover in the second half of the year.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we have a pretty good plan when it comes to quantum computing already, right? So, and we also were quite lucky to find a lot of good internal resources at SAP, actually, that we will be able to talk about quantum computing. So first of all, I mean, if we do such a series, basically, I'm pretty sure we do it, but the question is Q2 or in another Q, basically, right? We would probably start with a 101 on quantum computing again. So that really kind of means really understanding the use cases for quantum computing, understanding why it is different from classical computing. What is this entanglement thing? What is this superposition? And how do you, for example, just in a high level way, how do you actually program a quantum computer, for example, right? And maybe also giving you a bit of a perspective and a feeling for how fast things have developed. That I think that's very important. And then we thought about talking about use cases. The one use case that we currently see is actually making current systems quantum safe. So there's a big discussion, of course, that quantum computing can break classical encryption. So there's a lot of teams, including SAP teams, of course, working on post-quantum cryptography. That's how it's called. And we can, for example, explore how we can actually, what what measures are to be taken to make these systems quantum secure. And then the other big area of use cases are pretty much what you can do with the positive aspects of quantum computing, like, for example, how you can solve big optimization tasks that normally would take weeks or months basically with classical computing, and now you might be able to solve them in a couple of minutes or even seconds, for example. And there are the first companies emerging, and we were basically trying to get in touch and to bring people into our show to discuss these kind of topics. And I think for the last part of the series, we're thinking about talking to academia. So there are a couple of really nice people here at the TU Munich, for example, that we're right now in touch, and we hope to get one or two actually from the academia to actually talk to us from the TU Munich University and discuss the state of quantum computing, but also give us an outlook what we can maybe expect at some point. And I think that's going to be really interesting to just get a feeling for the whole topic and to really be able to participate in some discussions around quantum computing. That's the plan.
So, in a nutshell, just to sum it up towards the end, we have plans, we have technology in sport that will give you a lot of content. We're going to learn a lot about all the flavors and colors that technology will shape sports in the near future. That's going to be our first half year. We're talking about esports, and we have rich plans for quantum computing and agentic AI. So with that, we're looking forward to the year.
Towards the end, I think I would like to repeat a little bit an advertisement block for the Codefreeze conference, and maybe even share one picture at least with the whole community here, basically, and with you.
Oh, totally, go for it.
So let me just very quickly just recap what Codefreeze is all about, and I'm in this super happy mood here right now. So it's basically an unconference. That means there's a board, a Vacant board, which is like the open source version of Trello that we're using. And every day is pretty much organized by the community. You just check the board, and then you see if there are interesting sessions. You join them or you add something yourself. And there are a couple of cabins, a couple of rooms here in the hotel, basically, that you can just join. And so far, there were really tons of amazing sessions. So I looked into Hugo, GitHub Copilot. So this is a static site generator, GitHub Copilot, some constraint modeling language called MiniSync, for example, some design stuff with Figma and Canva. I think something like 15 sessions or so that I actually joined. And that's mostly happens from the afternoon on, actually, when it's dark outside, because here in Northern Finland, it's getting light around 10 o'clock, and it's getting dark again around 2 o'clock, actually. And so that's when the conference starts. And during the other time, you pretty much are out in the outdoors, enjoying the snow. I went a lot of skiing, fat biking, and also sauna actually is a big topic here. So we had the whole community in the smoke sauna, for example, which is a very traditional Finnish sauna, that is really heated up with wood, and then you let the smoke out, and you use the heat basically on the stones for sauna. And the one thing I want to share with you now actually is the dip. So this concept kind of is you go to the sauna basically, and when you really can't stay in the sauna anymore and you're super hot and sweaty basically, you basically jump into ice cold water. And I just want to share with you how that looks like, so you get impression and what it means. And I think that's the ending basically of our show today. So let me see if I can find the right window. Here we go. Found it. So this was from this morning. So it's a couple of participants of the Codefreeze conference. And in this case, we didn't have sauna before, to be honest with you. So you can also do the dip just after waking up. So that's a very, very abrupt, I would say, very quick way of waking up.
That
we meet in the alley basically, and then
the
four of us, we quickly went into the ice cold water, and you can see the snow around us. So the water is pretty much 0 degrees, of course. And then you're awake, and you go have breakfast and check the board basically, and do some sports. And later on, now in the later afternoon and evening, we'll have the sessions. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen in a few minutes now. So
And
Yeah, perfect.
Super.
Then thank you so much for watching.
And see you many times this year. Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It's somewhere down here. And thank you so much. Talk to you and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.